Lloyd Austin was testifying in front of the Senate, and Lindsey Graham went after him, pointing out that there is literally no other scenario in which a country fighting for its survival against a terror group would be denied weaponry because of political concerns of the President of the United States.
Do you believe Iran really wants to kill all the Jews if they could? The Iranian regime, yeah. Do you believe Hamas is serious when they say we'll keep doing it over and over again? Do you agree that they will if they can?
I do. Hamas,
okay, right. Do you believe that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization also bent on the destruction of the Jewish state?
Hezbollah is a terrorist organization.
Okay, so Israel's been hit in the last few weeks by Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, dedicated to their destruction. And you're telling me you're going to tell them how to fight the war and what they can and can't use when everybody around them wants to kill all the Jews? And you're telling me that if we withhold weapons in this fight, the existential fight for the life of the Jewish state, it won't send the wrong signal?
By the way, it is worth noting here that, again, on a pragmatic level, Joe Biden is so incompetent. Again, he's both morally imbecilic and incompetent, that even his real goals here are not going to be achieved. So when it comes to his real goal in Israel, Gadi Taub, who's an excellent commentator over in Israel, he has a big piece over at Tablet Magazine talking about basically how Joe Biden really doesn't like Bibi Netanyahu and wants Bibi Netanyahu out. He wants Bibi Netanyahu replaced with Benny Gantz, who's the leader of the opposition party, who's currently sitting as part of the war cabinet. Well, if he actually wanted to achieve that, he shouldn't have publicly said that he was going to deprive Israel of weaponry if they go into Rafah. Gantz is supposedly in favor of doing that. If Gantz looks like a tool of Joe Biden, he ain't going to win the next election in Israel. So Biden won't even get his accomplished purpose. But what's the real reason that Joe Biden is doing? Again, the reason he is doing this is because he is a coward. He is a coward of cowards, Joe Biden. Yesterday, during this interview on CNN, he was asked by Aaron Burnett about protesters calling him Genocide Joe. Now, here's what a normal, non-coward president would say. You know why they're calling me that? Because they're ignorant, because they're stupid, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I just spoke at Holocaust Remembrance Day a couple of days ago. A Holocaust, a genocide, is an attempt to completely eviscerate an entire population, to exterminate an entire population. Israel is not only not doing that, Israel is attempting to avoid killing civilians. That is what and if they believe that, they're wrong. And they should get informed. That's what a normal human being would say. That's not what Joe Biden says, because he is afraid of those people, because he is a coward. Here is Joe Biden being a coward last night.
And Mr. President, you had signs at college campuses. Some say Genocide Joe. Any of us that have gone to those campuses, sometimes we hear that chant. Do you hear the message of those young Americans?
Absolutely, I hear the message. Look, two things. First of all, there's a legitimate right to free speech and protest. There's a legitimate right to do that. They have a right to do that. There's not a legitimate right to use hate speech. There's not a legitimate right to threaten Jewish students. There's not a legitimate right to block people access to class. That's against the law.
When he says, I hear them, that's the reason. I hear them. They're calling you a genocidal maniac, and you quote unquote hear those morally bereft people. You hear them, you feel them. And so in order so that they won't call you mean names, the pro-Hamasniks, in order so that they won't call you mean names, you're going to help Hamas. That is Joe Biden's actual plan here. Because if he doesn't, then the Hamasniks won't vote for him. The people who love Hamas at these protests, they won't vote for him. They might call him Genocide Joe, and he wouldn't like that. That'd be very hurtful to Genocide Joe. So he's going to cave to them. That's all this is. Joe Biden was, always will be a political coward with his finger in the wind. That is all he ever was. Once again, Pure Talk is investing in their customers with their own money. They're not charging you extra money. I'm happy to announce that Pure Talk is now providing international roaming to over 50 countries. As you plan that summer travel, make sure your wireless provider has you covered at home and abroad. Pure Talk already puts you on America's most dependable 5G network. Now they're offering coverage in over 50 countries as well. Enjoy the freedom of unlimited talk, text, and ample 5G data for just $20 a month with Pure Talk. It's a deal that's hard to beat, costing you less than half of what you'd pay with other networks. Not only is their U.S. customer service team ready to assist you with a seamless switch, they also have fantastic savings on the latest iPhones and Androids. Ready to make a smart switch? Join my cell phone company, Pure Talk, and start saving today. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro to explore their offers. When you make that switch, you'll enjoy an additional 50% off your very first month of coverage. Don't miss out on the opportunity to save on wireless at home and now abroad. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro. I've been trusting Pure Talk with my own phone calls for years. You should do the same. puretalk.com/Shapiro today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Shapiro. The original sin of this administration is that when they came into office, they pretended to be moderate and they let Bernie Sanders run the show. The old derelict moron from Vermont, a complete useless person his entire life, a leech on public resources. That guy has defined Joe Biden's policy because Joe Biden is so afraid of his radical left, which is why Bernie was very happy yesterday about all this. He said that he's very glad that Joe Biden was moving toward an arms embargo against Israel in the middle of a war against a terror group. But don't worry, Bernie's going to do his as a Jew thing, as a Jew. Again, Bernie Sanders as Jewish as a ham sandwich with Swiss cheese.
According to humanitarian organizations, we're looking at the possibility of massive famine and starvation, hundreds of thousands of kids starving to death. In my view, Netanyahu should not have gotten a nickel so long as he continued this incredibly destructive war. I'm glad to see that the president is beginning to move in that direction.
Israel did not declare this war. Israel did not start this war. Israel's been shipping in more humanitarian aid during the war than was going in before the war. And that's who's running the administration, is Bernie Sanders. All you Democrats, you voted for Joe Biden and not Bernie Sanders. And you got Bernie Sanders. That's what you got. And meanwhile, who are they catering to? They are catering to people who hate the country. Let's be clear. These protesters on these college campuses who are protesting in favor of Hamas, they are not protesting for humanitarian purposes. They do not give two damns about the 500,000 civilians slain during the Syrian civil war. Don't care one iota about it. They don't care about the Christians who are being wrecked in Niger. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about any of this stuff. All they care about is that America is bad. How do you know? Because they just say it. This is a sign that was projected on the side of a building during the George Washington University protest. And this is the whole thing. It is a burning American flag, and it says, Gaza lights the spark that will set the empire ablaze. That is the agenda, and that is who Joe Biden is catering to, which is amazing because this is a congregation, a constellation of either malign actors or some of the stupidest people on the planet. I've been using that word a lot, this show, stupid, because it's hard for, again, I have a rule. The basic rule of Shapiro Stan is assume everyone is stupid and not evil. But honestly, it's kind of hard to tell these days. I will say that these people appear to be both stupid and evil. So over at Princeton, a bunch of students decided to go on a hunger strike for Gaza. And then, wait for it, they got hungry. I know, because it's a hunger strike. But apparently they were very shocked by this. And they demanded food during their hunger strike. They could just walk across the street and get a bagel. Well, they wouldn't want to get a bagel. I mean, that's a Jew donut. But they might get like something from McDonald's or something. Anyway, here are these cosplay revolutionaries. I like this bag in the center wearing his keffiyeh and his Che Guevara hat, looking like he just walked out of a 7th grade chess club. By the way, half these people look like they could use a little longer of a hunger strike, if you know what I mean.
And I, we are starving. We are physically exhausted. I am quite literally shaking right now, as you can see. We are both cold and hot at the same time. We are all immunocompromised. And based on the university's meeting yesterday with some of our bargaining team, they would love to continue physically weakening us because they can't stand to say no to unjust murder.
So they are not eating, and then they're complaining about not eating. Okay, I have a solution. We'll force feed you. That's the solution. How about that? Because you both don't want to eat and you do want to eat. So we'll just tube feed you. Would that be okay? No? These are the people Joe Biden is caving to. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.